Everybody, it is that time again. It is Wednesday. It is August 12th. I am feeling good. Hopefully you're feeling good. Steve, are you feeling good?
Yes, sir. I'm going to repeat what my grandfather always say. He'd say,
all right.
Frank, how do you feel? He'd say, with my hands.
That's what we got going on in our neck of the woods. What do y'all have going on in your neck of the woods? Hey, I want to tell you, you have already won the game. You may be feeling frustrated with your mule. You may be feeling frustrated with your donkey. You have already won the game, and you know how I know? Because you're here today. You're here. You're ready to learn. You're ready to give it your best, and you're ready to get back out there, and there is nothing more that we want to do than help you accomplish that. My name is Dave. This here is Steve Edwards, and for the next hour, we are going to talk mules and donkeys. Wherever you are at in your journey, today is the first day of your next win, and we're excited to be here for you, to be here with you, and to see you do it. Steve, how have things been going with you out there in Queen Valley?
Well, it's been hot. I pretty much work in the mornings when it's cool for 2, 3, 4 hours, and then come inside and bush up for a while. And in a couple of hours, I'm going to go back out and do some more. Mainly just right now, I got a bunch of cardboard boxes that I got to get rid of. So I'm kind of boxing that, folding those up. I'm going to take them down and get rid of them. But we're waiting for some rain. We ain't seen any rain in quite a while.
It's been teasing us this whole time. Last year was the exact same way. We thought this whole time we was going to get rain, and it just teases us. It never actually comes in. So I hope it does. Now, for folks who don't know, Steve, you are a volunteer firefighter with the Queen Valley Fire Department, and usually when there is some sort of a fire, I start getting messages from Steve Edwards saying, hey, check this out. Hey, check that out. And we post it up on Facebook. Now, I haven't gotten those in a while. Does that mean that it's been pretty quiet up there, or does that mean that you've been so busy you haven't had time to send me anything?
Actually, it's a combination of both. We've been extremely busy, but what's happened is depending on where the fire is, the Forest Service and some of the others don't like us posting things. So I have to be careful about posting a name or something like that. I can post some pictures of the fire, but I can't say where it is all the time. So they kind of clamped up on us a little bit. But I've just this past month we fought 3 major fires.
So you're still out there, still doing it. If you guys go back and watch, it's probably about 30 episodes ago, maybe 25. Right there on the thumbnail, you can see Steve all decked out in his volunteer. I mean, actually, the outfit is not a volunteer outfit. That is the legit outfit that the firefighters wear. And a mutual friend of ours, Michael, I was talking to him and I showed him. He goes, "Is that Steve Edwards decked out in firefighter equipment?" I said, "It sure is. He's a volunteer." He goes, "Well, now I've seen it all."
Well, we have different gear depending on if it's wildland fire. Then we've got a certain uniform that we use for that. And then if we have car accidents and house fires, then we have bunk gear, which is hot and heavy, for sure. And plus we've got our SCBAs on, so we're sucking air rather than sucking smoke. I'd much rather just be an everyday firefighter than I would be a wildland firefighter, because that wildland firefighter, it's tough. The last fire we was on was 10 hours.
Yeah, they are for the long haul, and when you see what has happened in the wake of these fires, it was a lot of energy. It was a lot of time to beat it back, and we're super grateful for all of the first responders who make that happen, keep us safe, and keep those fires from, as best they can, from reaching areas where people are living. We appreciate it. Folks, if this is the first time ever hanging out with us, I do want to say welcome. We're glad that you're here. Steve Edwards has been working with mules and donkeys since 1981. He had old Casper took a look at this mule. He went on a ride, got bucked off. Guy says, "Well, I guess you don't want this mule." Said, "Nope. I'm taking this mule and I'm going to get even with him. 10 years later, over the next 10 years, discovered a whole lot about the mule that just folks don't know. Started teaching people about it in 1991, and the things that Steve had learned and the results that Steve had gotten, other folks, they were getting those same results. So Steve says, well, by golly, I need to take this worldwide. And so today, almost 40 years later nearly, we come on here every single week to talk mules and donkeys, and we have folks from all over the world hang out with us. So if you are watching with us, here is what we want from you. There's really only 3 things we ask. Number 1, just let us know that you're watching, your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. You're probably seeing folks already do that, so just join in with them. Leave a comment. If that's the only thing you do all today, that's fine. We just want to know that you're here. Number 2, we want you to ask any and every question that you've got. And one thing you're going to notice is we answer a lot of the same questions every week, every other week, sometimes every month. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because repetition is key. Now, you might not be working through something right now, and we're going to answer a question for it. But then three weeks later, you're going to be working through that, and you're going to need an answer. So you're going to ask. And the folks who have heard it all 3 times, they're getting that repetition for when they need it. So ask any and every question. We're happy to answer them. And then the last thing is that we ask that you share the broadcast. So if you're on Facebook, what you can do right now, whether you're on your phone or on the computer, is just type the @ symbol, tap in the name of the person who you want to invite to come and watch, and then hit return. And they'll come, they'll hang out with us. That's it. Steve, what do you say we start saying hello to the folks who are watching today?
Let's get her done. Yes, sir.
Let's do it. We've got over on YouTube, we've got Karen. Hello from hot Central Virginia. A thunderstorm in the distance. She's got a question that we're going to get to. Andrea is watching North Carolina in rainy Red Eagle. Here, 80s and sunny. Hey guys, Jana Griffin is watching. Hi guys, busy moving this month. Thanks for keeping me company while I fill boxes in 93 degrees, Wheatland, Wyoming. It's our pleasure. Julie Dean is watching from rainy Kentucky. Over on Facebook, we've got Faye taking us international. G'day, she says. All right, Faye, we're glad that you're here. See, that's it, folks. We're international. This show goes around the world. It's coming straight to you where you're at. Linda, howdy from Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule in rural central Ohio. Sunny and breezy, 80 degrees. We'll take it. Eileen is watching. Sunny, 88 degrees from here in Nebraska. Says, hello, everybody. Robert Rhodes is watching from Seguin, Tennessee. 103 degrees today. Today is working on stock trailer maintenance. All right, Robert, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for taking some time. We've got Laura watching. Hey, Steve and Dave from Ontario, Canada. We've gone international again. Looking forward to my martingale rope halter and come along rope arrival. I've been working a bit on my new mule and noticed he can't turn his head to the left under saddle and is going through groundwork. Laura, we'll get to that question there. Faye says it's cold and foggy in Queensland, Australia. Joy is watching, taking us international again. Cool and sunny here in Maryborough, Queensland, Australia. James is watching from Holden, Missouri. Let's get to our first question. This one's from Karen. She says, my question is when I'm trying to soften up my 6-year-old mule by getting him to... Okay, so the question got cut off. My question is when I'm trying to soften up my 6-year-old mule by getting him to... Karen, we'll come back to that. Go ahead and type in the rest of it. We'll go here to Laura's question. She says, I've been working with him a bit with my new mule and noticed he can't turn his head to the left under saddle and is also in groundwork. I've had his teeth done, and there was a bad ramp and ulcerations in his left cheek which have healed up. Could he still be resistant weeks after he's healed, or should I consider my horse's chiropractor to check his back over? Steve, what do you say?
Definitely get the chiropractor. Folks, here's the deal. And in fact, I was just talking to Chuck over in Kansas, had some of the same things. But anyway, the teeth is first. And yes, the mule could still be thinking, man, I've got a problem over there. But let's get all the mechanical out of the way. I can't tell you enough. Chiropractic work and teeth, get them both done. Once you get them both out of the way, you're doing good. But that's what you need to do is definitely get the chiropractic done. Now, the other thing too is, yeah, she could be not wanting to turn to the left. Now, does that with the saddle on or off?
That's a good question.
Important. Yeah.
Let me
So
look
is
here.
the
She
saddle on
says,
or off when you do that?
yeah, it doesn't. Oh, under saddle. Yeah. I've been
saddle?
working
All right.
a bit with them. Notice he can't turn his head to the left under saddle.
All right. So now take the saddle off and try to do it without the saddle on. And then that could very well tell you that maybe the saddle may be too close to the scapula on the one side, or it could be that maybe the mule's got a shoulder out of place, and the chiropractor needs to fix that.
Awesome. That's one thing that we'll notice a lot, folks. If you're watching, you're going to hear this a lot, is the saddle being in the wrong place. Now, you can have a Steve Edwards saddle and it still be put in the wrong place. Matter of fact, we do see that, and folks will often, and hey, we just want to see the pictures so we can help. We're grateful to see the pictures. But often folks will have it about 2.5 inches or more too close to the front. And you'll see that it's right up on top of the scapula. It almost feels like it's too far back when it's in the right spot. But you send a picture of it all tacked up, 602-999-6853. Steve will tell you if it's in the right spot or not. So Linda, thank you for that question. Or Laura, thank you for that question. We're grateful. And Elliot's watching. Elliot, you have caught us as we are just about, we take all of these episodes here and we put them on our podcast on the iTunes store. And so we are just about to upload a brand new batch of podcasts, Elliot. So be looking for that next Tuesday. You have treats coming your way. Karen says, okay, here it is. My question is, what should I do when I'm standing at my 6-year-old mule's shoulder trying to soften his neck and he steps toward me instead of bending his neck? There you go, Steve.
Okay. Number one, I do not do lateral flections. So bending them around to the left or to the right, all that's going to do is, like right there, the mule says, I'm going to go through my shoulder, and that's what it's going to do. So I don't do lateral flections. What I do is surcingle work, and that balances and frames them up. But folks, when you're using horse techniques and you do lateral flections to where you turn them to the left and you turn them to the right, all you're going to do is teach them to run through their shoulder. So we're not going to be doing that either on the ground with the come-along hitch or with the bridle. No lateral flections.
There you go. No lateral flections, and I will get a video. Put that in the comment section here in a second so y'all can see what Steve does in place of lateral flections. You can see him work. Let's see. Steve is watching from Kentucky. Trace says, howdy, Steve and Dave from Queensland, Australia. I cannot see a meter in front of me this morning. Very foggy. Great to be here. Glad you're here, Trace. Kim is watching. Afternoon, Steve and Dave. Glad to have you here, Kim. Laura says he also can't turn his head without the saddle on. So saddle on, saddle off, can't turn his head.
All right, so we got a back problem there, most likely in the shoulder, and that happens, Dave, all too often. Horsemen have been using horse saddles on without a breeching, and it's banging on the scapula. So get your mule to a good chiropractor, a quality one. I was just talking to one of my clients, and he's actually going to take his mule into a university and have them look at it really good, folks. Do a sonogram on them scapulas. You're going to find that you got a problem. Matter of fact, Dave, Barbara just sent me an email and from that doctor in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah.
And about that scapula and why they had to retire that mule and this sort of thing, and how important he said it was to have good quality tack. And here was a young mule just flat ruined for the rest of his life from being a saddle mule because of saddle banging on the scapula.
Yep. Lots of resources that we have over at muleranch.com. So folks, if you're just hanging out with us on YouTube and Facebook, hear me. I'm grateful that you're here, but I want you to go to muleranch.com. Not only will you find all of Steve's tack and equipment, and all of that's good stuff, but you're going to find a lot of really great resources. Matter of fact, we've got some new resources that we are going to be releasing, some brand new articles. One of them is going to be all about what's it? Rescuing mules and donkeys from kill pens. You've got to rescue a mule, how to care for them, how to take care of them, and Steve shares his thoughts there. So go to muleranch.com if you haven't. I just put a link in the comment section for do not do lateral flections. Y'all make a point to watch that video. It's one of our newest ones, and folks have really enjoyed it because it makes it real clear what you should do in place. So let's keep going here. We've got Kathleen is watching. Red Eagle is on the treadmill. I, the other half, am on the PC for now. Howdy from the only place in New York State anyone with a sense would want to live, the boonies. Can you guys explain the chiropractor experience a bit? I can't imagine the human cracking with the special table for a mule or donkey. Yeah, boom, just like that. Talk a little bit about what that experience is like there, Steve.
You know, Dave, it really depends on what's going on with the mule. First of all, the technician is going to watch the mule move, and he's going to listen to what the person has to say. Well, then what they do is they'll bring the front leg up, and they'll pull it up a little bit, you know. I've even seen them use a rubber mallet and actually bring the leg up, and as they bring the leg up, they'll actually tap on the spine or the scapula and do some tapping on it. You know, like my chiropractor, he uses like a little gun. It goes pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
Well, they'll do some of the similar things with that little gun, but they'll also use a rubber mallet. So it really depends on what the problem is. But it's amazing to sit and watch them, see them crank these things around and stand up on a ladder, you know, and push on their back in different places. These guys can almost feel where the back's out of place, you know. So it's, you know, one of these days that'd be kind of cool to have a video of it, but it does vary from chiropractor to chiropractor as to what gets done.
Yeah. No, that's good. We haven't really talked a whole lot about that. I love that, Kathleen. We've got Sharon and Steve watching from Fairplay, Kentucky. Kathleen says, Dave, because you are so bored, how about a best of video? Quick edits, good quality sound, top 10 questions. Maybe that is our next live workshop experience. So in June and July, we did 2 special events. One was Happiness Owning a Mule, 10 Things You Need to Know About the Mule. And then July was Happiness Owning a Donkey, 10 Things You Need to Know About Owning a Donkey. Maybe we make the next one something about top 10 most frequently asked questions, something along those lines. Good suggestion there, Kathleen. Holly is watching. She says, I'm in Niagara, Wisconsin. Blue skies, 83 degrees. Send them our ways, please. Last time you were live, I asked about my first baby mule and got great feedback from Steve. But my question this week is, why do you recommend I don't tie my baby mule? Thank you again. So what does it mean to tie a baby mule, and then why do you recommend not doing it?
Okay, here's the thing. The baby mule doesn't have an understanding of the halter yet. So until he gets some halter foundational training to know where to go, the left or right, that's one thing. But here's what happens. Since babies get worried so much and blow back, what happens is people will tie, and folks don't do this, never tie your mule higher than the wither. Always tie wither high, no higher, or lower, because if they pull back, they can pull vertebrae out of place. So that's the thing to consider. So what happens is on these babies, when they get scared, all of a sudden they pull back, you got a good chance of pulling neck muscles out of place, pulling vertebrae out of place, lots of different things. I can tell you when I first start tying one up, and I start doing it for sure, I'll take a bicycle inner tube and I will tie the halter to the bicycle inner tube, and that way it's got some stretch and some give. But that don't usually happen. I don't usually start tying my babies up till about 1.5 years old or so.
Awesome. Let's hop back over on YouTube. We got a few more folks hanging out with us on YouTube. We've got Julie in Kentucky. We've got Carrie. It is cool in 72. We've got David in Pueblo. He just says hot, hot, hot. I believe him. Kathy says, hi guys from Oklahoma. The weather, hot. So there you go. There's the forecast. Kathy says, I need a good mule to ride Where's the best place to get one? Steve, how do people find good mules? Is it just networking? Is it, auction? Is it just knowing what to look for? How do folks find good mules?
Well, the best thing you can do, folks, is to educate yourself. Unfortunately, we've got the internet right now, and you look on the internet, and man, here's all these flawless mules that do everything just right. And I can tell you, just looking at these videos of these mules and stuff like that, there's lots of problems out there with mules, and a lot of it's the riders as well. So it's not just the mule, but watching the riders ride. Here's the key thing, folks. When you're looking at a mule to buy that has a foundation of training, in a 10-foot circle, they side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up lightly, go to the left and go to the right in a 10-foot circle. Not that they've gone 200 miles up the side of the Grand Canyon or anything like that. That's not important. Not that a bunch of little kids have been riding it. That's not important. If you really want to know if the mule is trained, in a 10-foot circle, they show you he's trained. Side passing, moving sideways off of the leg, turning on a forehand, so back in, staying in place, front end coming around. All these are important. So I would love to tell you, okay, go to Dave Schrine's Mule Company, and there you go. You can buy any mules you want, and you'll have her made. That's a not. And what I mean by that is this. Dave Shrine may have some super awesome mules, super well trained, but guess what? That mule doesn't like you, or you don't have the knowledge to ride that mule. And I'll give you this example. When I was going around the United States doing mule training seminars, I would bring a mule and I would demonstrate how this mule went. And people would say, wow, look at that mule do this, look at this. In a 10-foot circle, mule does everything. Walks across tarps, picks up all 4 feet. I mean, just everything really looks good. And I'd say, okay, now who up here in the audience has been riding 20 years? They come down, they ride the mule. Dave, in 15 minutes, it looked like he's not even trained. So it's not the mule's fault, it's because of my lack of education. So where can you find a mule? I would say in your backyard would be, look around in your neighborhood and this sort of thing. Be careful on this internet. Folks, I've got some horror stories that I can tell you of people who just, matter of fact, the lady that was just saying she's waiting for her come along rope and martingale and all this stuff. She just purchased a mule down here in the States and had it shipped up to Ontario. Well, unfortunately, the mule is not completely as was advertised. So education, David.
Yep, absolutely. That's something that you're going to hear us say over and over and over again. And the other thing I would say is on Facebook.com/Mule Ranch, just search on Facebook, Queen Valley Mule Ranch. You will find in the comment section lots of amazing folks who are interested in mules, who care about mules, who care about their happiness, who care about their health, just the way you do. And those connections you can make, not just great for maybe finding, networking and finding someone who has a mule worth looking at, but you're just going to make some great connections. You may even find a trail riding buddy, someone that you can go trail riding with. So be active on the Queen Valley Mule Ranch Facebook page. That's a great community there. And of course, be active here on these broadcasts, and you'd be surprised at what you'll be able to find. Steve, the next question I have, this one's about a mule that blows up. This one came in from Chuck. Says, I'm having issues with my mule. I've been working with her with the martingale for Mule Riders Martingale, and she's been doing well. Her biggest issue, and I mean biggest, is that she bolts when you initially get on her. It takes some work to get her to slow down, but eventually she does and responds well to reining. I've had her about a year now. Normally do round pen work with her about 8 hours a week. Last week she bolted when I got on her and I totally lost control of her. I ended up being dumped off. Hate hearing that. At this point, I suppose I need to start over with basic mechanics. My question is, do I need to put her in a mechanical hackamore to get more control. The bits just don't seem to work like they should in her mouth. Her mouth's fine. Just had her teeth floated in June, thinking that might be the issue. She acts the same as she did before I had her teeth floated. She responds well to groundwork. Farrier had no issues. I can halter her, but when you get on her, she blows up. Any recommendations?
Well, I talked to Chuck, matter of fact, a couple hours ago. No, mechanical hackamore is not the way to go. That's not it. And yes, the bit is definitely the way to go. Doesn't sound like, it sounds like you need to definitely be building a better foundation, because that mule rider's martingale can stop a freight train. No problem at all. But as I spoke with Chuck, I said, Chuck, I think the problem is your chiropractor. You need to get that mule to a chiropractor and get the back straightened out. And so that's what he's going to do. He evidently knows a very good veterinarian where it's a husband and wife team. Plus, he's in Kansas City, so he can go down to the university where they've got a really awesome veterinarian schooling program, and he can have the mule looked at there as well. So the problem is going to be is that once he gets in the saddle, kaboom, the mule takes off. But he also told me just before this, when he starts doing things with the mule, like starting to put the saddle on, the mule starts blowing up. So, so most likely I'm going to say we got some back problems, and very similar to the ones in Arlington, Texas, and get them problems squared away.
Awesome. Very good. Glad to hear that. Let's hop back over on YouTube here. Let's see who else we have hanging out with us. Let's see. Where was I at? Okay, Kim says, I had a chiropractor tell me animals hold the adjustment longer and better than people do. Has that been your experience, Steve?
That's the first I've heard about that. That's a new one on me.
All right.
Then that's good news.
That is good news. Jarrett says, hello, Steve and Dave. Is there a way to train a pack mule to avoid trees with his packs?
No, he's just going to have to learn to do it. They, especially younger mules, they just don't understand. They got to step away. But we see this all the time with pack mules. They constantly are banging into rocks, banging into trees, and out here they bang into cactus, and then the cactus thorns hits them, and we have a big old blow up, But no, there's not a way to train. They just have to learn to get around them.
All right, there we go. Next question over here. This was mailed in to us. This one is about a wagon. This one comes from Chip. He says, I'm retiring to a Minnesota farm in a couple of years, and I'm very interested in having a pair of mules. I understand they are social animals. I'd love to either build or purchase some type of wagon that the pair would pull. Anyways, I'm anxious to learn all about mules, where to shop for tack for driving mules, etc. Well, I could tell you where to shop for tack. Talk a little bit about the wagon, what you should be looking for, maybe even making your own. What do you have to say there, Steve?
Well, it's his lucky day, because here it is, folks. I'm retired from this training thing. I have the perfect wagon. This wagon, I've put 6 mules on the front of it. I've tied 6 mules on the back. It's a 63 Chevy truck, undercarriage. It has a really nice seat in it, hydraulic brakes, and all the way around, coil spring suspension. I mean, this wagon has seen it all. And you need to come down here from Minnesota to Arizona. I have my harness for sale, all the harness, the wagon, all the collars. I mean, I can set you up with all the tools that you need, really easy.
Awesome. There we go. Sending a message to Chip right now. We'll get you all taken care of, Chip, and in 3 years we'll get a report that life is good in retirement. And sent in an email. Said, Steve, how high is the port on the Trail Riders bit? A more complete description would be helpful. I trust your opinion, Steve, but would make a better description port height. What's the black material? What's the purpose of the shape of the shanks and anything else that affects the effectiveness? I really enjoy the live chats.
Well, folks, here it is. For me and Dave to write all of these stuff down would literally be a book. Why the port is the height it is, why the shank it is, why sweet iron, yada, 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 would literally be a book for you to read. How important is that for you to know the height of the port? It's not important, you know, it's not. I can tell you that I have worked on years trying to figure out how high that needs to be, how it needs to be rounded out, how it needs to set in the animal's mouth. I can tell you, okay, it's a 5-inch port. Well, how's that going to help you with your knowledge? Are you going to be able to measure your mule and say, okay, a 5-inch port won't work? Well, that's what I mean, you see. So to having more detail on the bit, gosh, it would be a book we'd have to write. Is it important that you know how high the port is? No, the mule knows how high it is, and as long as you put that in his mouth correctly, he'll be just fine. I spent a lot of years trying to figure out how to make the mule comfortable with the bit, and this here bit, this trail riding bit, absolutely is the perfect one. I've seen it time and time again, and so it's not important. Yeah, does that make sense to you, Dave?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I understand the concept of folks wanting to know more, and what I think I hear you saying is to know more would almost be like the difference between meeting with a doctor and a doctor explaining to you, here is what you have, here is what you need to do, and here are the basic symptoms. And then you saying, okay, I want to learn more about this thing. Okay, here are some doctor classes you can take. It almost sounds like that's kind of the equivalent that, you know, as long as you trust the person who is giving you the information and that they've done their homework, the end result, you can trust that recommendation. I mean, that's kind of how I'm liking it. Is that about how you're trying to explain it there?
You bet. And Dave, I've got one of my clients that wrote a book on bits. That book is 3.5 inches thick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And it talks about all the bits and why it was in there a certain way and why this guy made it this way and why this guy did it this way.
Yeah.
It's 3.5 inches thick. And so you can imagine the detail it goes into. Well, not everybody needs to know all that detail. You know, here's the detail for you.
Yeah.
Steve went, and Steve's been doing this for 40 years. This is the bit that has been working consistently for over 10 years. And so there you are. That's what I can do for you.
There we go. All right, let's see here. Let's hop back over on YouTube. And Helen is watching from Kentucky. Terry is watching from Big South Fork in Tennessee. Naomi is watching. Well, some people buy their mule 3 countries far away only by what the app's like. Yolanda is watching with Naomi. There we go. That's what it is. Kim says, a friend of mine sold a well-broke, very gentle mule to some people she knew. The mule did not like the people and would not perform, so my friend took the mule back. The mule was very happy. And I may have missed it, but one of the things I've heard you say in the past, Steve, is sometimes a mule is just going to make up their mind that they don't like you and there's not a thing you can do about it. It's frustrating. But I've heard you say that. Did you talk about that already, or you want to talk a couple moments?
It's, you know, Dave, here's a story for you. I'm teaching my class at Pierce College in LA, and I'm teaching on what to look for, disposition, stuff like this. And I tell people, do not raise a baby mule on your own. And everybody's saying, why? I said, because that mule made, you know, even though you raised it from your best mare, you touched it, you were there the day it was born, you've been all over it, but that mule may end up not liking you. And you know what? It was inevitable. One of my clients had a mule that she raised from a baby. That mule disliked her, didn't want nothing to do with her. Anybody else, no problem. No problem. But that mule said no. That's the downside, folks. Listen, you may see all these videos of kids riding these mules, girls riding these mules, young people riding mules, and it looks really good. But if that mule doesn't want to get along with you, folks, you cannot train. You've got to love me. You can't do that, okay? That mule has to like you from the beginning. That's why I say, don't be buying these mail order mules. You know, you guys got to be careful. I've got some horror stories I can tell you. Be there. This is where you want to smell them, touch them, be around them all the time.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, let's see here. We've got a question. This is a question for me, Steve, so sit back. I'll take care of this one. Linda says, can you explain what Premiere videos are on YouTube channel? I watch your videos over and over, watching every detail. Does Premiere mean that I won't be able to access it for very long, or does it just mean that it's new? Enjoying all of my Steve Edwards videos, both purchased and available online. So what that is, Linda, is we want you to know what videos are coming out. And when we schedule a premiere, it does not mean that it's only available for a short time. We will let you know if that's ever the case. What it means is that we are going to release that video on that day at that time, and you can watch it at the moment we release it, or you can come back later and you can watch it later. So it's just a way of us announcing what's coming up next. Now, Steve, hopefully you remember that, because next time that question comes in, I'm going to have you answer it.
All right, I got my head around it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, thank you, Linda. And folks, just an FYI, earlier this year, we actually put nearly every video that Steve has ever done together in one giant collection. It is called the Complete Collection, and it's available on Steve's website. It's $600. It gives you access to everything, all online, immediately available. I will put a link in the comment section. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a fantastic set of videos. All right, Lynn says, hi guys, beautiful day in Colorado. Steve, what way is the best way to get my Mammoth donkey to do a water crossing?
Well, the come along hitch, the come along hitch, the come along hitch. That's the best way for water crossings. Now, let me tell you what happens. Mules and donkeys have a hard time with depth perception. And just to give you an idea, we take a 4x8 sheet of plywood, we paint it white, and we put a black round spot in the middle. It's not deep, it's just a black round spot. But because of the depth perception of the equine, they can't see down that hole and they don't want to cross it. Now, when it comes down to crossing water, they don't know how deep it is. So they're worried about crossing water. Now, you may cross one water hole and do just fine. A couple years later, you may try to cross another one similar to it and the donkey won't do it. Just because they cross one, or just because they do it a half a dozen times, don't mean they're going to do it every single time. It's their depth perception. So it's going to take you being able to use the come along hitch, bump, 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 to get them to go across. A good video to help you with that is a trailer loading video, because what it does is it gives something scary, i.e. the trailer, similar to a water crossing, and you'll see the techniques that I use to get the mule to go in the trailer. So, and then that changes too when you climb up in the saddle, how you're going to use your legs for the communication across the water.
I'm adding that right now, the trailer loading video. That's a great video. Lot of really, really good basics that we cover in that video, but it's not just limited to the basics. Those basics, folks, you'll watch that video, and I know that there are folks watching right now, Steve, who are saying, yeah, I've got problems with, whether it's the water or whether it's the trailer, won't do it, ain't gonna do it. And that is what Kathleen was saying. He doesn't get in there. We have to have 7 grown men get up underneath him, get up on the side, push him up in there in order to get the mule in the trailer. It was about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes in, after doing some basic ground foundation work, that Steve was getting that mule to walk up in there, stand right there. He wasn't happy about it, but he did it, and he just stood right there, and eventually Steve was going in and out, in and out, in and out, fewer and fewer moments of resistance each time. Now, that doesn't mean that it was done and all set. There's still some work that needs to be done, but it shows that you can do it. So very good. Let's take a look back over here on Facebook. We got lots of great folks watching today. Neil's one of those. Howdy, guys. 85 and sunny in Peshtigo, Wisconsin. Elizabeth is watching, saying, "Hey, Steve, it's Precious." So there you go, Precious. You know someone named Precious, Steve?
Oh, yeah. She's a character. Precious out of Texas. Yes, sir.
Precious out of Texas. All right. David is watching. David Pingelli, I have a fantastic mule, but it took 8 months before we really connected. Lots of patience, but what a great finish. Wouldn't sell her at any price. Thanks to Steve for all your help and input. That's fantastic. Love hearing that, David. Thank you. Alicia's watching. Steve, can you talk about a grain you suggest or a pellet that is high in minerals, the minerals that a donkey needs?
Well, in order to know what minerals that a mule or a donkey needs, you really need to do a hair follicle testing. And that right there will help you out a lot. Not every, just like you and I, we don't always need the same vitamins and minerals or can eat the same food. My wife, for instance, if she eats bread with some MOGs or whatever it's called, boy, she's coughing for 2 hours after she eats the bread. So anyway, long story short, you really need to have the donkey tested to make sure of what vitamins and minerals that the donkey really needs.
That's great. Awesome. Is that something that can be done at an extension center, local universities?
Yeah, it can be done that way, or a veterinarian can do it. You know, they can do a blood sample, you know, and find out. You betcha.
Awesome. Linda says, "Hi, Steve and Dave." Hello, Linda. "I have a rescue Molly mule whom I can now brush and pick her 4 hooves, but she is lethal on her hind legs and kicks out even when I try to slowly move my hand down her legs." I'm trying to see if there's any follow-up question. I think that's it. Steve, what do we want to do here?
Well, come along hitch, Dave. The one video where I'm working with a mule and he won't pick up his back foot and he kicks at me and stuff, you can see how the come along hitch changes that whole mule's attitude. And that's really important. Now, folks, when it comes down to picking up the back foot of a mule or a donkey, we have to remember that donkey hip is very prevalent in your mules. So when you pick up a foot on the left side, let's just say the left foot, rear foot, you're going to have your left hand on the hip. You're going to go forward first, straight back, and over to the left. You are not going to pick the foot straight up like you do on a horse. You've got to uncock the hip, and that's really important.
Yeah, I'll put in a link to this video. This is probably one of the realest videos you're going to find on the internet when it comes to picking up, well, when it just comes to struggling with the mule. And folks will say, "Oh, Steve, you just do it," and they just listen to you. You have the touch. No, like, you watch Steve struggle through this exchange with this animal. The animal does not want to do it. And it's not edited. We're not taking parts out that doesn't make Steve look good. We keep it all in there because we want you to see that it isn't all cream and cherries, right? There is real hard work that has to be done, and you'll watch Steve go through it, and it's done in such a way that you can mimic it. You can watch it, and you can get out there, and you can do it the exact same way. Let's see here. Myra's watching. Good to have you here, Myra. Hello from Ojai, California. I have found a rope. Myra Toth. I have found a rope side pull halter with knots in the right places for mules. Would this be an option for training my mule to rein?
No. I use a halter and I use the come along hitch for building a foundation because I always start all my training from the nose. But if it's in the right places, that's great. But I don't know, Dave. I've never. Hopefully it's adjusted correctly, but it will help you for turning to the right, turn to the left, backing up, and this sort of thing. And also, Myra, we sent your saddle out yesterday. It's on its way. Your brand new saddle is on its way. I sent you the tracking information.
We've got, let me see here. I've got just a little let's see, sound effects. All right, here we go. A little bit of applause. They can hear it, Steve. You can't hear it. I'm working on getting that fixed, but I did a little bit of applause. Here, I've got a couple others. I got a DJ horn that I can run. That's a I've got applause. I've got a bicycle horn, the glockenspiel. I've got several. I'm working on making it so that you can hear it too, Steve. But we're all having a jolly good time over here. Jackie sent in an email. Jackie said, hi, Steve. I bought a nice 10-year-old few-spot Appy mule named Sergeant Major. All right. He was used out on an outfitting business in New Mexico and has had long ranch hour riding and long with packing out bears, cougars, and bobcats. He is very aware of my space and he respects it. I'm new to mule training. Good for you giving it a try. I've only owned one mule in my life, and I'm trying to understand the way they think. That's awesome. I've trained a lot of horses over the years and had my own horse training business, but this type of training is totally new to me. I've watched your videos, and I am in the process of educating myself. Sergeant Major has an issue that I would like to fix. I have watched the video of you and the white mule dealing with ear shy. I still don't quite understand the process of not making him ear shy. Just to describe it to you, I can touch his ears with my hand and arms, but anything like a rope or a head stall, he pulls his head away, hard away, and only if it just touches his ears. For example, if I toss a rein and it touches his ears, he dives his head and tosses his head back till he gets it off. He doesn't move his feet, just moves his head and his neck. Is this correctable, or is this something that will stay with the mule for the rest of his life? I hope I can make sense. If it's easier, please give me a call. There we go. That's from Jackie, Steve.
Yeah, it's when it comes down to the ear shy, what's the problem? She said she could touch the mule's ears normally, no problem at all. But then when she goes to put a bridle or something like that, so okay, here's what the problem is. One of the biggest reasons that mules become ear shy is because we put on a pre-adjusted bridle all the time. You never, ever, ever put on a pre-adjusted bridle. In other words, what you take it off and you put it on the same way every day. Don't do that. Loosen it up 2 notches, let it hang down, let the mule spit the bit out on his own. Then when you put the bridle on, let the mule pick up the bit and carry it. What's happened is, when they've gone and put the bridle on, they've pulled on the mouth with the bit and they've made it uncomfortable, and now the mule has got a sore mouth and just kind of tender, not really bad. And so to keep you from pulling on them, they throw their head. And then that protected themselves to keep from putting that bridle on from bumping their mouth. So you're going to have to go back and watch those steps, because that girl, that trainer that's doing this, that's the first time she's ever worked with that mule. So you're going to have to watch the steps. So what it comes down to is, number one, folks, you cannot put a horse bridle on. That's number one. Number two, you cannot put bits on that's been developed for a horse, because we have a different palate. We were talking about how high the port is and this sort of thing. Since they have that palate difference, it's important that you don't use a horse bit on there. And it's also important that you don't use a snaffle bit. You know, once you've built a foundation with a snaffle bit for 6 months, you're not going to use it again unless you got to fix something. But for a lot of folks, leave snaffle bits in all their lives and wonder why they get sore mouth. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take it's going to take time with a loose bridle, with no bit in the mouth. Watch the video. The video, you'll be able to see her. She'll take the bit and it'll actually hang down, and she won't even put it in the mouth. She'll just put the bridle on without the bit in the mouth. And then when she adds the bit, you'll see there's a problem. So that makes you also understand there that, yep, the problem is the bit, the problem's not the ear shy.
Very good. We've got Tori watching. Sebastopol, MS. What state is MS? Missouri?
Mississippi.
Mississippi, there we go. So sorry, Tori. Mississippi, Mississippi. First live stream, awesome. Been binge watching y'all's videos today, transitioning from horses to mule. There is some enlightenment right there. We'll give that a glockenspiel. Your advice is going to help me tremendously. So we are glad to have you on board, Tori. Thank you for coming to the light side. And if there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. Kim says it's a good to know about unlocking the hip and then pulling it forward first instead of just going backwards first. That's very good. Herschel's watching from Montana, 89 degrees, 80% humidity. David is watching, 65 degrees and blue sky in Port Angeles, Washington. Just came down from the high country, so I am late. Alpine flowers are awesome. Very good. Ima's watching. Thanks for your videos from Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Learning lots here, Ima. So glad that you said something. We know that we're not out here to get pats on the back or anything. But it sure does feel good to get an attaboy every now and again. Sure does feel good. It lets us know that we're hitting the mark here. So thank you for sharing something. I appreciate it. Back over here on Facebook, Dusty's got a question. Do you use a packing halter or a rope halter when you are packing mules?
I use rope halters only. I don't use any other kind of halters. I won't use halters with chains. I don't use nylon halters. All that does is teaches the mule to brace. In the very beginning, I do my training using foundational training with the come-along hitch, and then I wean them off of that, and I go to my rope halters.
There you go. Okay, next question. Lisa says, hello from Oregon. Hello, Lisa. I have an almost 1.5-year-old Molly who I've had since about 5 months old. She is sweet and friendly. I can brush her all over, pick up her feet, roach her mane, and so on. But she doesn't understand personal space at times. Just loves to be touched, groomed, rubbed down. Still will try to walk right through me at times like I'm not there. How do I get her to stop this? I put my elbows up in her face and she will stop. Any tips?
Well, the come-along hitch is absolutely the best way to go. Understand that they need to understand that this is my space, this is your space. You are not allowed to come into my space, but I am allowed to come into your space. So the come-along hitch will build a foundation of this is my space. Now, let's just say you don't have the come-along hitch. The mule comes into your space. She says, hey, pet me, scratch me, be around me. Well, unfortunately, you created a monster, okay? So, but you can still fix it. So when she comes into your space, you don't have your come-along rope. You can also take the edge of your foot and tap with the edge of your boot against her cannon bone, and that'll make her uncomfortable. Now, you can also kick a little dirt toward her, and that'll stop. I'll tell you, I was over in Minnesota at the zoo there in Minnesota, and I had a couple of big Percheron mules that were mucking out all the handlers, and so they said, what do we do? They come in during feeding time and they've stepped on people, they've hurt them, and they've knocked the feet out of their hands, the whole bit. So all the handlers are watching, some of the managers are watching, and here's these two big Percheron mules out there. I come walking up with the grains of feed, and I'm shaking those grains saying, come on, come on, and here they come. Well, when they come toward me, I kick some dirt toward them. And when I kicked the dirt toward them, they stopped and they looked like, what happened here, So while they're looking, I'm pouring the buckets of feed into their feeders. And if they looked back up, I kicked dirt back toward them. See, that changed their mind, just that kicking the dirt toward them, which just might be a thought. But the biggest thing you can do with a baby at 1.5 years is do your come-along work, do your groundwork. That ground communication kit, Dave, is most important.
Awesome. I'll put a link up there in the comments section right after I ask you this question. This one came from Monica. I titled this one Terrified, so saddle up here. Hey Steve, I've spoken to you a few times regarding behavioral issues with my Mammoth donkey. I've had him about 3 years now, and he is wonderful, much due to your online tutorials, which have been very helpful. There you go, there's an attaboy for you, Steve. I am not riding him the way I thought I would, however, and he seems to have one speed, and it's very slow. So, I have been thinking about purchasing a mule, but I am terrified. I have heard so many horror stories of mules that are downright aggressive and dangerous and very difficult to train. I am 49 years old, and I need to have an aggressive animal like I need a hole in my head. So I am turning to you for advice. Obviously, people get a lot of enjoyment out of mules, and they can be wonderful animals, but how do I find one that does not want to kill me? Wondering if you have any tips or people I can turn to. I currently live in Florida. Thank you so much for your advice, and keep up the great work with your online presence. Steve.
Good. Listen, your donkey can walk very fast, okay? It has a lot to do with your communication values. My video, let's see, a saddle donkey foundation would be a really good help for her. You don't need to get a mule if you've got a good quality donkey. I mean, they walk very nice. They're easy to get along with. Can you have problems with them? Yeah. Can you have problems with a mule? Yes. Okay. So learn to ride your donkey. You must ride with a breeching. That's important. Oh, Steve, I'm in Florida. It's flat. No. It's because of the way the donkey's built structure-wise it's imperative that you ride with a breeching. Second thing is you ride with a rear cinch. That's really, really important. So you could very well have a donkey that can walk very fast, but maybe you don't have the right bit. Maybe you don't have the right saddle. Maybe you don't have the right communication tools. And I think the donkey saddle fit video would be a good help for you.
Okay, I put a link in the comment section to the Ground Foundation starting kit as well, and I messaged back with a link to that donkey saddle foundation training video. Okay, let's hop back over here. Herschel corrected me. I said Herschel from Montana. It's Herschel from Missouri. Thank you, Herschel. I appreciate that. Let's see. Naomi, which I think this is Yolanda, says, I am 55 years old and I got my first mule 3 years ago. So there you go, folks. It can be done. Classic Star Equine. Jackie here from Northern California. It's hot and a sunny day here in Cali. We're glad that you're here, Jackie. Back over on Facebook, make sure that we get to everything today. Ashley is asking about that bit book, Steve. She says, what's the name of that book? I'm very interested in reading it. Is that book available anymore?
I don't know. It was one of my clients that gave it to me who got into mules and donkeys. And this sort of thing, and they wrote the book not just for the mule and donkey, but they wrote the book so people would understand about the bit. Dave, let me after this is over with, I'll shoot you a text of a picture of the book, and you can put it out there for folks.
Okay, sounds good. Let's continue on here with amazing mule and donkey information. David Pingelli says, I love my trail rider's bit. No wrinkles, and she packs it when she's pretty loose. She handles great with it. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. David and Steve have worked real hard to get everything dialed in there perfectly for David, and we're glad to hear that it's working. Okay. Linda says, thank you. I will keep watching your videos and learning. Richard Matthews. Captain's watching. Good afternoon, Chaplain Steve. It is a weekly occurrence that we get to greet the captain here.
Is he up in Sturgeons right now?
I don't know. Captain, are you up there right now? We'll see what he says. Linda says, I have looked everywhere and I cannot find a diagram of a mule's mouth. Is the mule's mouth the same as a horse's mouth?
No, and there's no diagrams that I know about or anything like that. It just took me a lot of years to figure it out, figure out how to line that bit up. And the bridle is important, how the bridle balances the bit. Those are all super important things.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple more questions here. Let's see. We've got Jason says, I was riding my mule in the mountains and I came across some horses. My mule went crazy and took off running toward them. I had no control to stop her. I'm using a dog bone bit on her. Steve. I've never heard of a dog bone bit. I'm guessing there's a reason why I've never heard of a dog bone bit.
Yeah, it's because it's a worthless bit.
All right, Jason, listen up.
A mule. This is a mule. You're riding in this stuff called horse saddle, horse bits. A dog bone bit, what it amounts to is, picture a dog bone and the snaffle bit. Normally a snaffle bit connects into one spot. The dog bone's got a little place in between, so there's a big wide spot. The problem is, these mules, and you'll think you're doing really good, and like he found out he's not, and all of a sudden now he's got no control. A dog bone bit is simply a snaffle bit that collects the tongue. You know, you want to be out of, folks, you want to be away from tongue communication. Once your mule has developed where you're developing a good communication with your hands, you no longer want to be riding two hands. You no longer want to be using the tongue to communicate with. You want to use the roof of the mouth, bars of the mouth. So your dog bone bit, folks, key word, horse bit, horse stuff, you know. Unfortunately, there's not bits out there that will actually work correctly on a mule, and you found that out the hard way. Now all of a sudden one day, you can't steer it. You thought you did good, but no, the mule knows better. You have no control.
And you are in the right place. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Folks, prior to really Steve Edwards and maybe a couple other people going out there and saying, no, an equine is not an equine. They are different. They are unique. And the resume. Steve, what's your resume real quick?
32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
A couple punctured ribs. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Learning that a mule is not a horse and that a horse is not a mule, there's a resume that goes with that. And so just like we were talking about with the bit earlier, that there's a book this thick about why you want what you want with a bit, there's a resume that goes to, hey, this is the bit that you need to be using. And that resume is broken bones, punctured ribs, and hip replacements. And so we are so glad that you guys are here every single week, because we are counting on you to get out there and say, oh gosh, I didn't know. And then let other people know, because we don't want them building a resume like Steve Edwards. We want them experiencing happiness with their mule and their donkey. We don't want them building a resume like Steve Edwards has built a resume. Ain't that right, Steve?
Yeah, it's no fun, Dave, having, not feeling very well, but it's even worse when you think you're doing okay and all of a sudden you hit the ground, and that's not good. Just like Chuck was saying how he's hit the ground. And so anyway, folks, there's a lot more to it, and Dave and I are spending this time here with you. We want to help you, so just let us know what we can do.
So this is what Jason just messaged us. He goes, I ordered your Trail Riders bit after that. So he's on the straight and narrow now here, okay. Steve. Go ahead.
All right, now let's do some education right here. Here's the teachable moment, Dave. We're going to take, this is our last one, right?
I've got one more, and then we'll be ready to go.
All right, so, okay. Folks, number one, do not create 1 wrinkle or 2 wrinkles with your mule, with your bit. Jason, when you put this on, you put the bit on, you let it hang down. You let the mule pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, move it all around. All he's trying to do is ask questions about this bit. Folks, you're riding a mule. This mule's got the intelligence to show you, to tell you, put the bit right here. And what David Pengelly was just saying, yes, it works. So put the bit in the mouth, let the mule play with it up and down. up and down, move it all around. When the mule finally gets quiet and holds it at a particular place, that's where he's going to like it. Now, do not put it pre-adjusted on every day. Every time you take it off, loosen it up a couple notches, take the bridle off, and then put it on the next day, and then let him pick it up and hold it, adjust it to that spot. He'll do it immediately. David Pengelly was just talking about that. So, do not do that. Now, the next thing is, make sure your bridle is not a one-ear bridle, and make sure your bridle has a 19-inch brow band. If not, I know where you can buy one.
Very good. All right, here is our last question for the day. This one is from Alicia. She says, so how do you know a horse bridle from a mule or donkey bridle? What's the difference? How can you tell that difference?
All right, real easy. Ready? 19-inch brow band. So the band comes across the front. It's going to be roughly 19 inches. Now, if the brow band is 19 inches, and there again, is it going to be for a snaffle bit, or is it going to be for a finish bit with a shank? If it's going to be one of those two, then that means you have to have a bridle to fit that bit. Just because you got a bridle doesn't mean it's made for a snaffle bit. And the same thing with the reins. When it comes down to reins, take them snaps off of your reins, folks. No snaps on your reins. Take and go home and take a spoon and tap on your teeth and see if you like that. That's the same thing as what happens when you use snaps on your bridles. Ting, 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 ting. You're making your mule and donkey super uncomfortable. There we go. We're done. Happy
There we
trails.
go. Well, you know what, Steve? Penny just squeaked one in here. Can we answer one more question for Penny?
For Penny, you bet. We'll fix it up.
Real quick, Sherry's watching from Lovell, Wyoming. Linda says, love your work, guys, from Drowan West. And then here, Richard, Captain Matthews says, no, not up there right now. And then here is our last. Oh, Alicia says, I'll place my order for your bridle tonight, Steve. I'm going to use it with the training bit. There we go, making people happy. All right, Penny, this one's for you, and then we're all done. I love my trail bit. Just ordered my second. I have a John Mule. I live on the northern California coast. Well, I bet that's beautiful. We have some steep country. I have your light saddle. Going down hills, he walks slow, like tiptoeing. Why?
He's being very careful. Good. I want to go slow going down a hill. Tiptoeing is good. He's watching where he's going. Every time he puts his foot down, it's right where he wants it. Hey, you got a mule like that? You keep that mule. That mule is trying to take care of you and himself too. I love a tiptoe mule going down a hill. Good deal.
There we go. Folks, that's it for this week. Steve, that was a lot of fun. Of course, it always is, isn't it?
Yeah,
always a lot of fun.
Is. Always good to see you, Dave,
Always good to be seen.
Good hairdo.
Yeah. Turned 38, trying a couple new things here.
It kind of looks like Ronald Reagan in a way, with this little do that he had there.
Yeah. You know what? I've got my my George W. impression. Strategery. I've got my Obama impression. You like your doctor? You can keep your doctor. And I've got my Trump impression. We have very, very great sympathy. We had a great call. Would you say it's a great call? I don't have my Reagan impression down. I will work on it, and I'll see if I can get a Reagan impression going for everyone.
You're incredible, Dave. I love you, buddy.
I love you too.
My 3 grandsons doing?
They're doing very, very well. They are enjoying school. Little Stevie is in preschool now, going into his second week, and he's halfway loving it, halfway not loving it. So we'll see how things go before the end of the year there.
Are they actually going into a schoolroom with kids?
So the older boys are doing online school, and Stevie has a preschool that he actually goes to. So small group of kids.
Cool.
Yep. There you go. All right, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to go to muleranch.com. Check out everything that we've got going on there. Lots of free stuff. Lots of amazing tack and equipment. And until next week, right, Steve?
That's right. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.